Monday episode of the Donovan Bandits. I'm Warren Phillips. Yes, it's a 3-episode week this week. So let's start off with a good one right now. We have Mr. Ed Catto and JC Vaughn together. They are putting Captain Action in with Al Capone Vampire. That's right. Ed's been pushing for the return of Captain Action for many, many years. He's been doing such a yeoman's job getting this project together. Toys, comic books, you name it. He's been pushing and pushing, pushing. And we all know JC Vaughn from Gemstone Publishing. I mean, one of the best publications out there. He also does Al Capone Vampire, which is one of the greatest titles in comic book history. So what they do, they combine characters on a new Kickstarter, and you're going to love it. Please, I'll put the link in the comments below. Check it out. Check out this interview. I had a blast talking to these guys. We talked about Captain Action, talked about Ed's new job with TwoMorrows, and a very special issue coming out from Gemstone in October. So here we go with Ed and JC. Mr. Ed Catto and Mr. JC Vaughn. And we're talking some Captain Action along with some other things. But gentlemen, first of all, thank you for coming on.
Great to be here.
Yeah, good to see you, Oren. Thanks, pal.
So Ed, let me start with you because I know Captain Action has been, something you've been working with for quite a while now. Talk about how the balls started rolling recently with him coming back to the forefront.
Oh, sure. Well, we've been kind of digging this out for a while. We've had our ups and downs, and we've been on the shelves of Toys R Us and the cover of the Overstreet Price Guide and some really great things. And and sometimes we struggle too. And so now we're at a point where we're working on like a whole bunch of big stuff, but recently some of these cool announcements have just been so much fun. So we've got new 1/6 scale figures coming out, which many of the core fans really, to them, that's what the brand is mainly or is only. Mm-hmm. So we're thrilled to have that, and that'll be really great. And then of course, this Kickstarter that we're doing with Jeff is so much fun, and just released some of the more pages today, and we're in a great place. So it's so much excitement.
I don't want to detract from my Kickstarter, but I got to say, the Rocketeer costume, long time coming, but it's really exciting.
Oh yeah, it really is. So of course, Captain Action is a figure that in the old days kids would buy. Now collectors or more collectors would buy, and then instead of buying a whole nother figure, it was this razor blade theory. So you'd get the figure, and then you could put a mask and an outfit on, and he'd become another hero. And one of the ones that never clicked with the timing through the history of Captain Action was one of our favorites, the Rocketeer. So we're working with the Dave Stevens estate. Wow. Great folks, and we've got a comics focused version of the Rocketeer. We're even tweaking. We're all such nerds, right? Like the jacket was a little bit small in the prototype, and we're fixing the jacket like a tailor, like an old Italian tailor at a suit shop. And this Rocketeer Captain Action outfit will be so much fun, as will this new Captain Action 1/6 scale figure.
I think one of the things that's so cool about this is that you guys did, when you did your Marvel sets, it really drew inspiration from the original Captain Action. I mean, your packaging was over the top, way cool. But you go back to original Captain Action, and what made it so unique was that the folks behind it licensed from DC, Marvel, and King Features Syndicate. I mean, just stuff that nobody could pull off at the same time now.
Yeah. I spoke to one of the original founders, and he was saying, we, you can almost picture him with a cigar. I don't know if he smoked, but on the phone, and he's like, we'd drive around New York, and we'd go one place, and the admin or secretary would type up the contract on carbon copy, and we'd sign it. And then we'd go to the next place, and it's bananas to think of that.
And the thing that's so great about it is that if you are, and I always use the Spider-Man as an example. If you're a Spider-Man collector and you've got the money to get the rare stuff, the AF-15 and 9.4, you've got the money for that kind of stuff. I think the rarest thing you could get would be a mint in the box Spider-Man Captain Action costume. I think there's 5 known to exist.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's a beauty. I mean, it's so much fun. It looks real. It's got some weird elements to it, the original one. And when we redid Captain Action a few years ago, we were all Romita guys more than Ditko guys. There's pros and cons to it all. So we leaned heavy into Romita Spider-Man, and we had so much fun with that, and the Peter Parker mask and the Spider-Man mask, and it was just a ball.
And, there's a lot of.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I would say there's a lot of good information about Captain Action in this Lost Universe book here, done by Mr. Michael Urey, who wrote up a very nice piece. So if folks want to learn more.
That's Michael Urey's piece in that actually came from the price guide, and it was so invaluable. That's why I wanted to reprint it in that book. Michael, of course, did the definitive book on Captain Action, and even though it's a few years out of date, it's still. You beat me to it, Ed. I was reaching down. To get my copy.
I forgot it was behind me.
I actually was showing it on Aaron Lopresti's podcast last night.
Oh, good.
Just talking about how you guys infected me with this, because I'm from the same age group, but I was a G.I. Joe kid. I was not a Captain Action kid.
Mm-hmm.
And between Michael's book and Ed and Joe coming around and meeting them and hearing their story about Captain Action, and my old boss John Snyder was a big Captain Action guy, and everybody got why this was a unique thing. It's the original superhero action figure, and what's really compelling about it is that the comic book history of it is incredibly cool too. Now, it's diverse. There's never been a huge run of this stuff at any of the publishers, but there's been some really good comics and some really, really great footnotes historically. Right. Captain Action #1 is Jim Shooter's first published credit. Huh. It's not his first published comic, of course, but it's his first published credit because Jim always did layouts in his scripts. Wally Wood treated him like he was another artist and signed his name on it. Right. Yeah. So that's just that to me, that's a footnote. And Jim's one of my mentors, so I just adore that. And then, there's some really cool stuff in the Moonstone run. And then there was when you guys did Codename Action with Dynamite. One of the things I liked about it is we're back to all these other characters involved, which sort of goes back to the origin. So I really wanted to capture elements of that. Now, obviously, we can't do Batman or Steve Canyon or Sergeant Fury or whatever. But I really wanted the Master of Disguise element in that, and so that plays big. There's a Mission Impossible vibe. And matter of fact, the whole little teaser opening sequence, we went largely black and white because I like the pre-credit sequence in Casino Royale an awful lot, and then big boom burst of color after.
Yeah.
So just to be clear, we're talking about Captain Action and Al Capone Vampire.
Oh yeah, I'm blurring the lines here. Captain Action versus Al Capone Vampire, and it's one of these things that just sort of happened because the guy ahead of me at Wendy's was taking too long in the drive-through. and I'm not. It's like when you make me bored, my brain does stuff. And,
oh my god! Yeah, go to more drive-throughs. It's so much.
I pulled around. No, we just need good service in the drive-through.
I see.
We won't mention Mr. Pesci's favorite quote, but I finally get up to the drive-through. I pay. I pull around the corner and I call Ed, and I say, "Hey, I've got an idea," and I tell him the idea, and he says, "No, this is like a great reply. I like it, but why?"
I'm still saying that, but I love it.
So
the nice part about Captain Action is, it's a party with a big tent, and you can kind of do a lot of things. And as long as you're true to certain things, like you know, the creativity and honoring some of the original tenets of the character, you can do a lot of things. So, I mean, like if it was a tent party, you could have, you know, blues music or country music or rock music. It would all work. And that's a little bit of what this new
And
series.
one of the things here, Lauren, is that even though, you know, Ed and Joe and Michael are partners in this, it's not some massive corporation.
Right.
I, as a creator, you know, thankfully a creator with a good reputation and everything like that, I can call up and say, hey, do you guys want to do this?
Right.
And it's like calling another creator owner.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. We try and be very disciplined. We've just got a new level of paperwork for some licensing that we do. So we try and be very disciplined, but at the same time, it's great as a small organization to be able to be nimble and be like, let's give us some thought, see how to make this work, or be reactive when Jeff's like, oh, we want to do this, or I've got a great illustration and I want to put the silver streak in. You know, we were able to figure out that as we go.
So Jeff, what's point A in the story that you started to think about as to why Captain Action would be a good foil for Al Capone?
It all goes back to being bored in the drive-thru. This stuff, I've got lawn guy next door. Can you guys hear that?
No.
No, I've got a thunderstorm. Can you hear that?
Oh, really?
Okay, so basically, what happens to me is I've had this idea that I really wanted to write Captain Action for quite a while, and it's been coalescing. And I participated in the Captain Action panels at San Diego each year, and I've been privy to, you know, some of their inside info, what might happen, what they're trying to make happen, stuff like that. And what I really wanted to do was write a really good Captain Action story. And I felt like I could be faithful to this. To me, when you do crossovers, and I say this as a fan, I want the crossover that you can't imagine how it's going to work, and I want it to work. Archie versus Punisher is the one I always cite, because what happened in that, as silly as the concept is, they didn't violate either character's world. There's some work in that, and that's really cool. And that's what I wanted to do with this. You know, one of the bad things about horror comics when they come from the big two, particularly, is that sooner or later the sales dip, and now it's time to bring in Batman or Wolverine. And so what I didn't want to do was betray my horror readers that have been very kind to me so far with this, and I was super conscious of that. So it made it double onus that it had to work as a story. And the guys are introducing a new villain in Captain Action through the action figures. And the blast for me is I'm sort of getting first crack at it.
Sure.
And as it turned out, it was always going to be the villain that made this piece come together. It allows me to cast Capone as the villain, but maybe he's not that bad by comparison. And sort of play it three-way. I'm not, by any means, Capone's not a good guy. You know, he just might not be as bad as this other guy. Sure. And I wanted Captain Action straight on virtuous. You know, and I wanted, you know, like how other characters look at Captain America. I wanted like Captain Action to be exalted among his peers. And so my approach was take him really seriously. He's really good at what he does. He's not in control of the circumstances, so things can still go wrong, and do. And to me, that was the appeal of doing this, and the challenge of putting these together and not breaking either world.
And yeah, when you think about, you know, I'll reveal a thing. Years ago, we were talking with IDW, and I think Andy Schmidt was the editor. We were talking about this G.I. Joe Captain Action crossover, like made all the sense in the world, right? And it never happened for different reasons. And now like reflecting on that, I think this is more fun, right? Because it's so like, well, that's kind of odd, like how Al Capone vampire and Captain Action, and how do you make it fit? And it gives the reader something maybe they weren't quite expecting. And it's done with so much love and care and thoughtfulness that I think both people from both franchises will be happy and surprised, like, well, that's
my goal is to pique their curiosity ahead of time, like what the heck is going on here, and have them be really surprised at the end.
Yeah, that's what I'm still saying, and I'm going to be surprised at the end.
Now, Ed,
you are gonna freaking love the ending.
I'm sure I will.
if it wasn't Jeff pitching this, would you be a little more hesitant about going forward?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, like Jeff said, Jeff's been a guy who's been super supportive of this project. Like he knows everybody in the industry, he knows the backstories that everybody has, and for whatever reason, he was very kind to us from the very beginning. So we've done like different things together, like Overstreet Price Guide and the Lost Universe, through the years. And I think also, the comics industry, so much of it is the reputation that you have and the work that you've done and how you treat people. And Jeff always treats us so kindly and so well, probably better than we deserve. I shouldn't say on this while he's here, but better than we deserve.
I don't think that it's better than you deserve. I do try to operate just, I mean, sounds really old fashioned, just golden rule stuff about, treat people how you want to be treated. And to me, one of the things I learned really early on in my professional career in comics was, even if it's something I don't get, like I don't get why people like character X, it's enough for me to understand that they do, and it's somebody's favorite. And I should be able to dispassionately write about it. This was in my early days of Overstreet's fan, writing about stuff. Some of the guys on the staff were a little bit younger than me, and I had a career already. And I came in, and they're like, why are you writing like you like this? I know you don't like it. And I go, the sales tell me it's somebody's favorite. And why is my job to put them down? It isn't. My job is to describe their passion. And I carried that further when it came to looking at, I like ketchup. My nephew likes mustard. I'm like, what are you, a communist? But it's just fun. It's just like, you like that, I like this, so what? And we live in such a politicized age that everybody wants to tell us is so polarized. When push comes to shove, people agree on more than they don't agree on. They just don't know it because the disagreement is loud. And I always
you're stupid saying that. No, of course I agree with
you. But I always say this. I always listen. I go back a few years. I point out Price Guide 48. I have Ethan Van Sciver on one cover. I got Howard Chaykin on another cover, and God bless Ryan Sook. I got no idea about his politics. I got no idea. And what am I interested in? I'm interested in selling the book. Right? I'm interested in making a great comic book Price Guide cover.
Yeah. Was Ryan Sook the Planet of the Apes one?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's brilliant. That was brilliant.
And I'm a Ed knows this. I'm a Planet of the Apes guy before I'm a comic book guy.
Yeah.
And that one was special to me.
Yeah.
Now, Jeff, without giving too much away, is there a finite ending to this story? Or
listen, there's a smidge of open ending, because while I was working on my little 41-second trailer for the Kickstarter, I figured out a whole nother story. And it's actually more of a Captain Action story than it is a Capone story.
Mhm.
And so I don't want to close myself out of doing that if, Ed and Michael and Joe should, have a couple of glasses of wine and decide, hey, let them do another one. But the uh, it is a conclusion.
Okay.
And everybody goes their separate ways. I think there's logical story elements for that to go on in their separate ways, where, you can't imagine Captain Action giving up the hunt for anybody unless it's an official reason.
Right.
And so that's sort of what I baked into this.
Yeah. And we should also call out the Frame Brothers, like part of it, like pulling this together and the other end, we're getting some phenomenal art. And some of the stuff will come back. And it's like, oh, we should do something more with this pinup or with this panel or this illustration. It's been just a gift and a joy to see all this great
It's
artwork.
been really fun. Like, they sent me a pinup that they were just doing, a pinup of Captain Action, Action Boy, and Lady Action that they were doing just for their CAF site, so that they'd have something to sell at an upcoming convention. And I'm like, that's a freaking trading card. That's our first stretch goal.
Yeah.
And I showed it to the guys and they loved it. Brendan and Brian, I've worked with them. So we the first thing we did was a comic strip called Antiques.
Okay.
And it ran in the Antique Trader, which was a tabloid-sized newspaper in those days. And it ran weekly as a Sunday-sized strip. And it was about the greatest pop culture auction ever held, when this rich guy dies and his collection goes up for bid.
Mm-hmm.
And because of my position, I knew people to call about each of the things. John Clark, who was the longtime editor-in-chief of Disney for Gladstone and then for us at Gemstone, I had him write up a description of a non-existent Carl Barks painting. I called people and we talked about Fabergé eggs. We talked about Renaissance manuscripts, one-sheet movie posters, and all that kind of stuff like that. And then we put a romantic mystery around that story. And so we started working, I think probably 2000, maybe late 2005, 2006.
Okay.
And we've been working since then.
Now, Ed, my question for you is, Captain Action's gone through a lot of different changes when different people have been writing it and stuff like that. Do you think that helps the character with the different versions of it, or do you think it hurts the character because people might not be sure exactly the core origin of who he is?
Yeah. I guess the answer is for me is we're trying to figure that out too. I mean, so many times in pop culture there'll be a couple versions, and the world seems very comfortable with it. The world was comfortable with Superman comics in the 40s and Superman radio show and Superman cartoons. They were all a little different. And even watching this new Batman on Amazon, the animated Cape Crusader, it's brilliant, but it's like, oh, another mythology. Oh, do I have to really keep track of this? It's a lot of fun. Those are bigger properties than Captain Action. I think we try and make sure that there's enough of a sameness and all the core elements are there. And then sometimes, we'll get a little different or get a little wonky. The Dynamite stuff was like, Captain Action Year Zero. And, some of the Moon Knight stuff was very different than the great things we did with the paperbacks. And, somehow it seems to fit. And I think our hardcore fans are eager for more. And we don't hear as much I'm confused, I guess, as you'd think. It doesn't mean that people aren't confused, but we really don't hear it. Struggle of a question, Oren, but a good one.
Yeah, listen, I'll throw my 2 cents in on this, and it's this: in the hands of the right creative team, and Ed and the guys qualify, and I hope I do. It's neither an asset nor a hindrance. You just have to make it what you need it to be. If next year there's a Captain Action cartoon and it's great and it goes great guns, it won't matter that there's been all these iterations before, that'll be the new standard iteration for its lifespan.
Yeah.
And whatever it is will most likely be great. And until then, I think you can say candidly, it'd be easier if there was one history, but there isn't. So on to the next thing.
Right. Here's one for both of you. Putting him back out there now, it's a very crowded market out there. How do you guys make yourselves stand out to get fans' attention to check out what Captain Action is all about?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I can start. Yeah, we love to really hit on a lot of different cylinders. So for Captain Action, we're always reaching towards like the toy collectors, that comics history, especially with the Wally Wood shooter, Gil Kane element has folks who love those creators and kind of coast from there. And then just folks who are looking for, something like a little new or a little different that harkens back to the old. I think we get a lot of those folks. So we sold a bunch of like irreverent stickers at San Diego Comic-Con, and somehow that worked, and somehow that was a lot of fun. So that's great. And we're actually really looking forward to reaching new categories of fans and consumers and people who love it. Like Jeff says, it's great. You get a 45-year-old comic fan or older. But there's room for young kids, and there's room for teens, and we'll have fun with all that.
When the Marvel packages were coming out, the Marvel costumes were coming out in more recent times. My nephew, who's now 17, was quite a bit younger, and he just loved that stuff. So it really comes down to a matter of the right exposure and the right situation, and Captain Action. And this is where to me, where the Master of Disguise thing comes in. What kid doesn't love that?
Right.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting now with our LBO action figure project with the Rocketeer. So many super passionate Dave Stevens fans. There are some fans who aren't necessarily passionate about Dave Stevens, but they love the Rocketeer movie, which is like another version of that character. Yeah. And as we're offering them something new, there's just like 3 companies that are licensing Rocketeer stuff right now. And, it's another thing that they're looking like, oh gosh, I don't really remember who that Captain Action guy is, but, I'm excited for this, this product that you're making. Yeah. We're excited to bring them into the fold and, start to, make them part of the family.
Anything that we can do, and this goes for pretty much all comics, anything we can do to bring in new readers and let them know what kind of great stuff we collectively have is a phenomenal thing.
And Jeff, I want to ask you how you're finding the self-published or the Kickstarter experience as an independent creator so far.
Well, listen, right now, it's a mixed bag. The economy has to be playing into it. I've had really good results as a D-list creator. I mean, people know me as the Overstreet guy. I'm really thick-skinned about this. I do 2-3 Kickstarters a year, and that's my creative output as far as anybody knows. And I have a really solid return percentage each time. We grow a little bit each time. Right now, I'm about 5 or 6 backers ahead of where I was in the last campaign. I'm hundreds of dollars down. And that's the economy right there. So it's not any problem. It's not any problem getting the backer. You're going to have to work harder to get the same money. Boat is all the retailers, right? It's just where things are right now.
Yeah, but with this one, didn't we just surpass the goal, Jeff?
We're unless it's happened while we've been on, we're just shy of it. I think we're $29 shy.
I just did a quick little check. I think we just crossed. I think it's your show.
That's pretty freaking cool. Thank you, Ed. And we will do slightly overlapping an Indiegogo campaign together with this. Right now, we're just on Kickstarter. I've been dealing with my physical therapy on my frozen shoulder, so I'm sort of a little behind on the Indiegogo one, but thankfully I think we'll launch on Wednesday for that. And there's some cool stuff. We've got the stretch goals. The first one is, people will get the script for this. The second one is the first of the trading cards, and we've got at least 3 trading cards that are already done for additional stretch goals. And Brendan and Brian they've just kicked ass on this. And that's it. I'm blessed because of my career. I have contacts with a lot of great people. John K. Snyder III just did a bang up cover for us, and he's a Captain Action fan. So there's 2 Easter eggs built into that. One is very obvious, which is his sword. And the second one is the gun. If you look at the cover and you see the gun that Lady Action is holding, it came in the package for the Captain America costume in the 1960s. And, Ed and Joe and Michael spotted it right away. But John did it on his own. He goes, and he tells me he's going to do it, and I'm like, oh, this is great. and I love that kind of stuff. And then we also have something I think is really special. We also have a photo cover of, and now it's manipulated a little bit, but it is of Professor Fang's the new villain.
Oh, okay.
And it's really fun.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, Professor Fang, just real quick. So, Captain Action's been fighting a bad guy Orin for, 60 years. It's like, how good a hero are you if you got the same bad guy for 60 years? Like, it's not quite working out. Maybe you should be a fireman or something. So anyway, seriously, so we have this new character in the mythology, and he's got a great look. He almost has like a Victorian look. Our designer, Corey, just hit it out of the ballpark, and it's a funky, creepy thing. And he's on the cover of one of the variants, and it's a whole backstory that's very clever, and it's with something that we're doing with Captain Action that I can't quite reveal yet. I will say, as I look at your frame picture, there's one thing in that frame that is like the whole story. I can't believe that's in that what I see. But we'll reveal that soon. And this Professor Fang is going to be a lot of fun, and we can't wait to unleash that character after the Rocketeer and the new Captain Action, to unleash that character and everything else that goes with him.
That's awesome. Now I want to talk a little about a couple other things. Some news was broken at San Diego Comic-Con. Mr. Ed, if you'd like to tell fans about your new position.
Oh, sure. I'm so excited for that. Oh, gee, I almost had a prop ready. I'm a little clumsy, but hang on. Oh, yeah, here we go. Yes. So I'm so excited to announce that I'm taking over as the editor-in-chief of Retro Fan Magazine. Like my role model, JC Vaughn, I'm excited to get into the publishing things, the end of things. And Retro Fan is a fantastic magazine founded by this brilliant guy, Michael Urey, the fellow who we spoke about with the Captain Action book. He's retiring. He asked me to come in and take over. And those are, I'll tell you what, there's a bigger shoes to fill. I wish he was more of a screw up or a bad speller or less of a visionary, but he's a visionary and he's clever and he's witty, all these things. So I'm going to try and follow that act, but I'm so excited. And TwoMorrows is a great outfit.
And Ed's the right guy for this. He's got his fingers in a lot of pies. He understands a lot about pop culture, and the aspect
figuratively and literally. I love pie also.
The aspect that I talked about a few minutes ago about understanding that if it's not his bag, that there's other people that are truly really into it, and that should be the editor's position in this kind of thing like that. And he's taking over from a tremendous guy and is a tremendous guy himself. So there you go.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, nice part about Retro Fan is, Retro Fan is not comics, but it's really pop culture in many ways. So I think invariably there's an article or two that you're interested or maybe you're passionate about. And then every other issue, it's like, well, I don't know anything about that thing. And then you read about it and you're like, wow, I love chips. Never really was a chips fan, not my thing. And then the article kind of got into some of the gossipy infighting. I was like, oh my goodness gracious, that's fascinating. Like, how did that happen? And now these guys are friends. And like, it just opened my eyes to a whole new thing. And so I'm excited to be doing that in the future for Retro Fan.
Well, that's awesome. And Jeff, there's been some buzz on the social media about a certain Svengoolie comic book supposedly hitting shelves in October.
Absolutely. It should, matter of fact, what I will be doing after this is approving it to go to press.
Wow.
It's called Svengoolie 45th Anniversary Bonanza. And it is when Dan DiDio did the first issue, Svengoolie Lost in Time at Frank Miller Presents, and Dan sort of went his own way after that. And what's really great is that one's got a bit of a back issue market. So I've been following it as an Overstreet guy, and I also reviewed it because I thought it was so charming. I reviewed it for our Scoop email newsletter. And so when Dan needed a home for the second one, I was like, ooh, okay. And we did that, and we had a lot of great creators, and even on the design side, behind the scenes, tremendous folks like Don Guzzo, who's a Marvel bullpen veteran and designs almost all of my stuff. Work on it, and working with Dan has been a blast. And so it's on, matter of fact, as we're recording this, it's in final order cutoff right now. So tomorrow I'll know the numbers and we'll piece the thing together and okay it to print. And it should be on sale by October 2nd, just in time for Halloween. And it is Svengoolie's 45th anniversary.
Yes, indeed.
Wow.
And I heard Mr. Joe Staten is also taking part in this.
Joe is in there, and one of the names that was not announced originally is Dan Parent. Has some drawing in it, and that was a really nice addition.
That's awesome. I know there's a lot of
and listen, we've got some. I mean, there's some really great talent. Obviously, it starts with the Bill Morrison cover and a Scott Shaw cover. There's a cool. I'm usually one wringing his hands like there's too many variants, and well, in this case, there is a retailer incentive variant that's a photo cover, and it's pretty freaking cool too. And so I think anybody that likes Svengoolie or has a soft spot for the horror hosts from days of old. I grew up with Chili Bill Cardille in Pittsburgh, and if you're a horror fan, he's the reporter in Night of the Living Dead.
Ah, okay.
And he was the horror host. And in Pittsburgh, Saturday Night Live being live was delayed a year because Chiller Theater still hung on.
That's awesome.
and last year they revived it as a streaming series for, I think it was 10 episodes or maybe just 5. But it's one of those things where everybody who grew up in certain regions knows who their horror host was if they're of a certain age. And so the Svengoolie thing, and the fact that he's been doing this for 45 years and is now a national figure because of BTV, it's really pretty cool. And Dan is a legit Svengoolie fan. This is not a marketing gimmick or something like that. It came about because he was in line to get his autograph.
Yes.
and so that's really cool.
Yeah, no, Dan also put together that one shot with DC for Svengoolie.
Absolutely. And you have I think these I gotta say, the Svengoolie, Rich Kos, who's Svengoolie, and his staff wrote this thing.
Yes.
I mean, it's and this new one has little character vignettes from the supporting players. So it's if you like Svengoolie, you really can't miss this one. And it's a fun thing for us to do. I was very excited to do it.
Well, it sounds absolutely awesome. Now, for folks, I mean, I know you just said you just crossed the goal, but for people who also want to get in on the Captain Action versus Al Capone Vampire, what's the best way for them to do so?
Absolutely. Right now, just Kickstarter. It's Captain Action versus Al Capone Vampire.
Mhm.
Uh, and we have stretch goals that everybody will get more stuff if we hit.
Okay.
And when the two campaigns go, I actually always couple them, so everybody gets all the stretch goals. It to me, it's just like I don't know why we would ignore any avenue of selling a comic. I don't recall the last creator I heard go, I'm selling too many copies. Um, and so we'd really like to. We're glad to meet the goal, but we really want to do a lot better.
Mhm.
I would not be opposed to being able to buy a sandwich after I did this. Um,
Little things, yeah.
and and honestly, the more people that see this, the happier I'll be because they'll get what's cool about Captain Action. Maybe they'll get what's cool about Al Capone Vampire, and and the one thing we know is that there's some people who back crowdfunding that just don't want to do Kickstarter or just don't want to do Indiegogo. So I usually try to do both in one way or another.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
it
that's
sounds.
great. And then, oh
Okay,
yeah, yeah. And then if I can add too,
sure.
for folks who are looking for the figures for Captain Action, got a great site. Just go to captainaction.com and you can pre-order the new 1/6 scale figure and the Rocketeer outfit, and that's great. And anybody
And the
who's
new
interested in,
and by the way, the new figure looks really cool.
Yeah.
yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Jeff. Yep. Yeah, new figure. And then if you're interested in retro fan, you can get it at your local comic shop or TwoMorrows.com. And the next issue on sale is has this amazing Scott Shaw Space Ghost article. That's a lot of fun. So
One thing I want to say about stuff like Retro Fan, its companion magazine back issue, and other things like that. If you let your comic book retailer know you want it, they'll carry it. And if not, they might not. Retro Fan is something every comic shop should have, but I've been in a few that didn't. And and if I told them, hey, I was looking for this, you know, then all of a sudden they might start carrying it.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Every comic shop should be carrying it, and it's a good way. It can make a little bit of money, and and I think it just expands that fan base and keeps people more involved. Like that Space Ghost issue. It was a little too late to put something together, but in the world, I would have worked out something with the great folks over at Dynamite, and done something with their,
Okay.
their Space Ghost
Fanboy
series.
moment. That's a really good comic.
Oh, I love the covers, and at Ithacon this year, Oren and I were there, and we ate cereal watching Space Ghost cartoons on Saturday morning. We missed you, Jeff, but that was
Well, listen, I missed being there, and I look forward to making a return appearance at that show.
you must.
The thing that I want to say is, you know, man, I look at what I do for a living and what I do for fun, and it's all around comics. And I think that between things like Retro Fan and I hope the Price Guide and Dollar Bin Bandits, man, I just think anything that shares the excitement of this stuff that we love,
Mhm.
that's good.
Yeah.
There's enough negativity out there in the world. Share some excitement.
That's right. I
Makes
love
sense
it.
to me. Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you both so much for taking the time to talk today, and thank you for all your hard work with Captain Action, Al Capone, Vampire.
Thanks so much,
Thanks
Oren.
so
It's great
much,
to
Oren.
see you, buddy.
No problem. Let me just put it on pause here. And we are back. Those guys are awesome. And I backed the Kickstarter. I can't wait to see how this turns up. Captain Action, if you watch previous episodes, I talked to a few different people at Captain Action. I love the idea. I love the idea that he could be any superhero in the universe. And I think it's one of those things that just kind of fell through the cracks. I'm so glad Ed's bringing it back. And Sven Gulli, Spenguli right there. I have it all around my office down here, Spenguli. So Jeff is putting that together. It is going to be coming out in October, and I think it's going to be awesome. The list of people working on it is absolutely phenomenal. So make sure you go check it out. And please, please, please remember to vote for us. We are in contention for the comic book awards. And I've mentioned it before, so please go to their site, cbcawards.org, and vote for us. Vote for all for your favorite YouTubers. We really appreciate it. This would be absolutely huge for us. So we have a busy week ahead. Hope you like this one. You have more great stuff coming. I'll see you.